Okay, everyone. Good morning from Beijing. Welcome to this open information session for the Yenching Academy at Peking University. My name is Brent Haas. I'm Associate Dean here at YCA, and we're very fortunate to be joined by three Yenching scholars here this morning in Beijing. How about a brief introduction?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm John Paul LaChapelle. I'm an 8th cohorter at Yenching Academy, so this is my second year here in Beijing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Tierney. I'm also an 8th coder here at YCA, and I'm in dentistry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasper Abrahams. I'm from Belgium. I'm an 8th coder as well, of course, and I'm in the Law and Society track at Yenching.
Jean-Paul, what track are you in?
Yeah, I'm in the Politics and International Relations track.
Okay, so we have Politics and IR, we have History and Archaeology, we have Law and Society. You're also lucky that they're all 8th cohorters, which means they're in their second year, so they've already gone through the first academic year and completed our coursework, and will be able to share some of their perspectives about their experiences coming up a little bit later. So a brief heads up, what I'm going to do is give you about a 30-minute introduction to the Yenching Academy, and then each of our scholars who are joining us today will then follow up with brief presentations about their experiences and perspectives as being applicants and now students at Yenching Academy. We will be answering questions if you type them into the question Q&A or chat function in today's team meeting. Some questions will be answered by our staff online directly. Others will be passed on to us to answer at the end of today's presentation. So with that having been said, once again, thank you for joining us, and let's go ahead and get started. So Yenching Academy of Peking University is part of Beijing Daxue. Peking University is one of China's oldest comprehensive institutions of higher education, founded in 1898 as the Jingshi Daxue Tang. We have a lovely image of a rainbow over the Boya Pagoda and the incredibly famous Weiming Lake on Beijing University's campus. Here are a few more of scenes from our lovely campus. It is a very, very special place to visit, to live, to study, and for me and some of my colleagues to work. One of the reasons why Peking University's campus is so lovely is that it was originally built as part of an imperial palace complex, a garden complex in the northwest of Beijing. It was later built into a previous university on this site, Yenching University, which was an active university from 1916 to 1952. And it was in 1952 that Peking University moved over to the campus that we know today. Jingyuan Courtyard is a key location in your experience as a Yenching scholar. Jingyuan is a really, really lovely grassy square surrounded by beautiful architecture. These buildings were originally built back in the 1920s. This is where our administration building, our teaching building, and really the center of academic and social life at Yenching Academy takes place. I do need to point out the cat that you see on the left is Fengzhua. He's one of the several cats that live in Jingyuan Courtyard 3, our administrative building. Peking University students are very, very serious about caring for the cats that live on campus, even having social media accounts for their activities and letting you know what's going on with the campus cats. We're happy that Fengzhua is part of the YCA family here. So one of the real benefits of being a Yenching scholar is not only being part of our program, but being intimately connected to the support, administration, and faculty at Peking University. We have over 12,000 faculty members, just around 50,000 full-time students, of which there are over 3,000 international students. Peking University's faculty and academic endeavors are organized into 55 different schools and departments and 14 national key laboratories. So not only do you have the opportunity to be a Yenching scholar, you also have the opportunity to be a student at the best university in China. So YCA is essentially a 2-year fully funded master's program in China studies. We look at contemporary China, how it developed to the form and system that we see today, and how the major developments in China over the last several decades are changing its role in the world. This is a 2-year master's degree program. And now this slide might seem like a little bit of heavy-handed talking points, a magnet for outstanding young scholars, a catalyst for international dialogue. But actually, it's really quite true. We are a magnet for outstanding young scholars, and I personally attest to that as the director of our admissions program for the last 4 years. We're also involved in a really interesting process of defining what China studies as a young academic discipline means when you're in mainland China, when you're at China's top university. And whether students are in classrooms, the dormitory, or wandering around campus, or in, say, the cafeterias, you will be surprised by the kinds of fascinating, sometimes challenging, but always thought-provoking discussions that'll take place cross-culturally and internationally. So even though these might sound like some heavy-handed talking points, they're actually quite legitimate. So the language of instruction at Yenching Academy is English. There is no prior Chinese language competency required for admission into our program. However, since we are a highly competitive graduate program at a top university, if you have Chinese language proficiency, if you've taken courses on China, or perhaps have a China or China studies related degree, that can be potentially a competitive advantage. When you graduate, you will receive a diploma from Peking University, a master's degree, and I'll tell you about the specifics of that degree coming up because it's a little bit connected to how we have integrated China studies as an interdisciplinary graduate field into the system of degree conferral in China's Ministry of Education and at Peking University. Let's talk funding. In many countries and regions around the world, finding a fully funded master's program is very, very difficult. It's all too often that many universities actually use their tuition payments from master's students to help fund some of their PhD students. You don't have to worry about that here at YCA. We have solved that problem for our Yenching scholars. The Yenching Fellowship includes tuition payment, accommodation, which for the first year will be in the Yenching Academy House, a renovated dormitory just for Yenching scholars. It has a monthly living expense stipend of 3,000 renminbi, roughly 500 to 600 US dollars a month, depending on changes in the exchange rate. We pay for travel to and from Beijing. That can be coming to Beijing at the beginning of your first year and going back home for a visit after your first year, or what we hope, it'll be coming to Beijing at the beginning of your first year and returning home at the end of your second year upon graduation. We also offer basic medical insurance, and this insurance specifically designed for international students living and studying in China. Now, I need to point out that we have many other forms of additional funding: the Dean's Research Grant in the first year, opportunity grants to attend conferences, language enrichment scholarships for the second year, as well as other forms of contributing to the Academy's academic and administrative life, such as office assistantships, teaching assistantships, and residential assistantships. So when you think about the investment we're making in individual Yenching scholars, and remember that we have roughly 120 new students every year and 2 classes of students with us studying at any given time, this is a very large financial commitment. Because of that, we conduct an academic performance review at the end of your first year. There are very clearly defined academic standards that all Yenching scholars must meet, such as completing a minimum required number of course credits, maintaining a certain minimum GPA, not violating the rules and regulations of Yenching Academy and Peking University. If you meet those standards at the end of your first year, you simply tell us that you want to be in Beijing for the second year and you receive the second year fellowship. This is an important piece of information for you here. These are our 6 research areas at Yenching Academy. These research areas are how we have integrated interdisciplinary China studies at the graduate school level into Peking University's academic system and the system of degree conferral by China's Ministry of Education. These 6 research areas will be important to your experience at Yenching Academy in 3 ways. The first, the application stage. When you apply to Yenching Academy, you choose one of these 6 research areas. Now, we want you to study what you're interested in at the master's degree level, but we also have a responsibility to evaluate your academic training and essentially the likelihood of your ability to complete a defensible master's thesis at one of China's top universities in the research area to which you're applying. So that doesn't mean you can only apply to a research area if you have a degree or are about to gain a degree in that research area. But what it does mean that if you're, say, an anthropology major in your bachelor's program, but you're applying to economics and management, well, then you should understand that we're going to have some questions about that. So have you taken economics courses? Are you good in, quantitative analysis, et cetera? So if you're applying to a research area that you perhaps think isn't obvious that you have training, this training can be coursework, minor degrees, it can be internship experience, et cetera. Anticipate that we'll have those questions and try to address our questions in your application materials. So, application stage, choose one of these research areas. The second important way is when you choose a thesis advisor for your second year. Your thesis advisor will need to be drawn from a department or school and have research mentorship experience in the area in which you will be writing your master's thesis. So for instance, China Studies Law and Society. If you're planning on writing a master's thesis in, say, judicial reform in the last 10 years in China, perhaps looking at online courts, then you're going to need to choose a thesis advisor from the Peking University School of Law. But if, say, you're looking at demographic changes in China over the last 20 years and the resulting effects that's having on family structure, family planning, et cetera, then perhaps you'd be better off having a thesis advisor from, say, the Department of Sociology. Now, the third way that these research areas are important to your time at the Yenching Academy is when you graduate. Essentially, this is what will end up on your master degree diploma. It will say Peking University, Master of Economics, pardon me, China Studies, Economics and Management, or Peking University, Master of History, China Studies, History and Archaeology. This is how we've integrated our interdisciplinary approach into China's degree granting system. Very briefly, here are some of our core courses that all Yenching scholars take together in their first year. The core courses in the upper left. I'd like to highlight China in Transition. It's our flagship course for the first year. The first semester is co-taught by leading faculty across departments and schools in the social sciences and humanities at Peking University. It's a large discussion or seminar course combined with breakout sessions, discussion sessions in smaller groups. The second semester of China in Transition, however, is a field research focused course. You choose one of the professors that taught in the fall and whose research interests best align with your own. And under their expert guidance, you develop either a group or an individual research project and conduct field research. The goal is to give you on-the-ground field research experience before you move into the second year master's thesis research and writing stage. All international scholars, non-native Chinese speakers, are required to take Chinese language courses during their first year, unless you have already passed the HSK level 6, the Hanyu Shuiping Kaoshi level 6. If you pass that, then you are able to place out of the required Chinese as a second language course, but you're still required to fill those academic credits, and we suggest you do so with at least a couple content courses taught in Chinese. This slide here gives you some of the major elective courses that are taught by YCA faculty for the 2023 to 2024 academic year. You see they're organized in columns connected to our research areas. We have politics and international relations, econ and management, law and society on this slide. The humanities will be on the next slide. I do want to emphasize, however, we are an interdisciplinary program. You are not restricted to only take elective courses within your research area. We encourage you to take courses across all of the research areas. Here are the courses on offer this year and broadly defined the humanities, history and archaeology, philosophy and religion, and literature and culture. I teach history of the field, sinology, and China studies from a global perspective, and modern Chinese history. Caitlin was in both of my classes last year and is now my teaching assistant for the sinology and China studies course this year. One of the real selling points of our academic system here at Yenching Academy is the way we are connected to top faculty members across the university and who offer their services to Yenching scholars in two different forms of advisorship. In the first year, you have a faculty advisor. This person is here to learn about your research interests, to introduce and guide you as you integrate into PKU's academic community, and in some ways to find out what you want to study, and if they aren't the right person to mentor you, introduce you to their colleagues who are the right people to mentor you. Now, your first year faculty advisor can become your second year thesis advisor, but it's not required. We simply don't think it's reasonable to have recently arrived graduate students determine their thesis advisor within the first few months of being on campus. So you will choose a thesis advisor from one of these 24 schools and departments at Peking University at the end of your first academic year. You do so in conjunction with submitting your formal thesis proposal. One of our core courses in the first year is the field study class. For the last several years, we've been taking our students down to Chongqing municipality and Chengdu in Sichuan province. This is a travel, learning, research experience. It's very intense. We have lectures and readings before you leave. You have to write a field study report at the end of it. Yes, when we're in Sichuan, we go see the pandas and we eat hot pot, but we also go visit leading high-tech firms in Chongqing and Sichuan. We go to highly important archaeological excavation sites. We visit interesting museums, etc. When I mentioned the China in Transition second semester field study course, here is some of the data over the recent years. So in 2023, we had 34 different groups of students as part of China in Studies spring semester visit 18 provinces, municipalities, or other regions around China. So not only will you be learning about China in the classroom at Peking University, you'll be getting out of the classroom and getting out of Beijing as part of your required coursework. I'm not going to have a lot of time to introduce all of these things to you, but we have a very, very active student life here at Yenching Academy. This is our flagship event, the Yenching Global Symposium. It's a global China Studies conference conceptualized and organized by students, of course, with support from Yenching Academy's leadership and with the student affairs staff. You can see the first 6 Yenching Global Symposia here. In 2023, it was the first time we had our Yenching Global Symposium outside of Beijing. We went down to Hainan province, and our theme for this year was Humanity, Cartographies of Collaboration. It was a very intense but very successful conference experience for our scholars and for delegates, student delegates from around the world. We are a very international and multicultural community here at YCA. You can see over the first 9 years of our program, we have nearly 1,000 scholars from 82 different countries and regions. You can see the overall regional breakdown on the map there. Obviously, we have some improvement that we're looking forward to in our recruitment from the Global South. That's something that we're aware of and we're working on, but still it is a very thriving multicultural community here. Over the 9 intakes of Yenching scholars, you can see the universities from around the world that have placed the highest number of graduates in Yenching Academy. Peking University is first, Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you do not have to be from one of these universities to be able to get into the program. What we're telling you is that these are the universities that happen to have placed the highest number of graduates here with us. So you'll be joining a very impressive group of young scholars from all over the world. The majority of Yenching scholars complete their bachelor's degree, only have a bachelor's degree before coming into the program, but we do have a significant number of Yenching scholars who already have postgraduate degrees when they join us, whether it's an MA, a law degree, what have you. Here you can see a little bit of the data on this. I would say it's roughly 10 to 15% of our students have other postgraduate degrees before they join our program. This is the breakdown of our research areas that students have chosen when entering the program over the entire history of our program. Politics and international relations is the highest, followed closely by economics and management. Law and society is third, and then the humanities come in together roughly at about 15 to 20%. This is not planned. We do not have quotas that we must have X number of students each year from any given research area. If we did plan it, if we did have quotas, I can assure you that we would have a more even spread. But what this reflects is the best applicants in any given year, the research areas to which they were applying. The current cohort that just joined us a couple of weeks ago, actually, maybe a month ago, 113 scholars from 26 different countries and regions, 40% from Asia, 31% from North America, 20 from Europe, just about 5% from Latin America, 3% from Africa, and 3% from Oceania. You can get a sense of the regional and sometimes national backgrounds where our scholars come from. It's a really cool selling point of the program, I think. You will have the opportunity not only to learn about China from China's top professors, but also to meet really outstanding, interesting people from all over the world. And maybe, unfortunately, I don't know that there are many kinds of situations where you will be able to get to know such a diverse group of talented, interesting people. So I hope that's exciting for you. That also moves to how we value intercultural communication experience, or at least a focus on intercultural experiences in applicants to the program. For the current cohort of Yenching scholars, we have graduates from 80 different universities around the world. The top universities that send us the highest number of students. This year, Yale takes the lead for the 2023 intake of Yenching scholars. I'm curious if any of your universities are on there. We've been working really hard over the last several years to offer a well-rounded career development system for our students. The career development aspect of YCA is completely voluntary. It's organized by the Student Affairs Office and oftentimes organized by Yenching scholars or alumni of the program themselves. We have things like the professional mentor program, where you meet leading figures from a wide array of fields and walks of life and industries in China. We have companies and organizations come to recruit Yenching scholars. We have sharing sessions and info sessions among scholars and alumni about applying to graduate school, applying to other kinds of careers upon finishing your time here at the program. And I can't say that our career development is necessary. Our career development offerings are necessarily directly fully responsible for the success that Yenching scholars have. It's also based on the talented people that we bring into the program. But you can see here where some Yenching scholars go upon graduation. I would say about 20%, 20 to 25% of Yenching scholars go on to further graduate study, generally PhDs. You can see some of the top universities where our scholars go to upon graduation. Or you can see the international organizations, consulting firms, government organizations, et cetera, where our scholars find gainful employment upon leaving the program. So let me give you a brief overview of how to apply. The minimum requirement for applying to Yenching Academy is completing a bachelor's degree before you enroll. So oftentimes we have fourth-year university students apply to our program in the fall semester of their fourth year. As long as you graduate and complete your degree before August 31st of the following year, as in the year you intend to enroll, that's fine. Essentially, you can't go to grad school until you finish university. We look for students with outstanding academic records. We do not have a minimum GPA. There isn't that kind of hard academic standard at the admission stage, but this is a highly competitive program, and we absolutely value academic excellence. We also don't just want to look at your GPA and your grade sheet. We want to know about who you are as a person, things outside of the classroom that are important to you, with an eye of getting a sense of who you are and what you can bring to our multicultural community here. So are you an artist, a singer, You know, do you run long distance? You know, are you a violin player? Do you have startups? Are you committed to charitable work? These are things that, if they're important to who you are, please let us know. We highly value interest in exploring cultural diversity, experience traveling or studying abroad, living abroad. We are a China studies program, so we want to see students who are interested in better understanding today's China and how historical China has created what we see today. And just like any graduate application or any job application, you need to give us a good reason why you want to come to Yenching Academy now at this stage in your career. What can you get here that you don't think you can get somewhere else? Where do you want to go in your career? And how do you think we can help you achieve those goals? And English proficiency is required. I'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up next. Okay, unfortunately, mainland Chinese students, so PRC citizens, are only eligible to apply through what's known as the exemption from the graduate entrance examination. This is the Tuimian system. So mainland Chinese scholars apply in the third year of their university study, and then will be entering upon graduation. International students and students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan will apply in the way that I'll tell you coming up just next. But there are some extra application procedures for applicants from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Let me go back here. So essentially, if you're from the regions of Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, you will both apply directly to Yenching Academy at our application portal, and you apply to Peking University's specific application portal for students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. It's essentially the same documents, but submitted to two different university application systems. If this is applicable to you, please go to our website and read the details about this dual application system. Applications are open now. We open our applications on August 15th, and they close on December 3rd, 2023. If you are a student or an alum from one of our 70 partner universities around the world, and please go to our website to get the list of partner universities, you will be applying to your home campus first. The first round of admission decisions will happen at your home campus, and then successful candidates will be nominated into our second round of admission review here at Yenching Academy. So please double check whether or not your university is one of our partner universities around the world. When you apply online, we need a certificate of English proficiency if your native language isn't English, or if you did not attend a university in which English is the primary language of instruction. We need diplomas from any institutions of higher education from which you graduated. If you have not yet graduated and you're currently enrolled, we need a certificate of enrollment. We need official transcripts from all degree programs that you have attended. If you're a college student, we need your official transcript. If you graduated and already have a master's, we need transcripts from both of those programs. We have two essays, the personal statement and the statement of research interest. The personal statement is your formal introduction to us at Yenching Academy, who you are, what you're interested in, why you want to study in China, why you want to study at YCA, where you're going with your career. The statement of research interest is essentially your academically focused, research-oriented introduction to us. It does not have to be a formal research proposal, but it is a formal academic document. You should you should define a problem or a set of problems that you're interested in exploring. You should contextualize your research interest in secondary academic literature. You should potentially suggest some ways that you try to answer those questions. So it is a formal academic document, but you are not committing yourself in the statement of research interest to what your actual master's thesis topic will be. We want to look at this essay, and by reading the way you write about research, we want to try to understand how you think about research. We need your resume or CV, and we need letters of recommendation. These letters must be academic letters of recommendation, and they must be from associate professors or full professors or the equivalents in your home country or region's academic promotion system. These are standard hard requirements, not only at Peking University, but at top graduate programs in China. All this information can be found on our website as well. Scholars from, or would-be scholars from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, you have these documents that are ready for you. You also need to submit a certificate of English proficiency. Again, please go to our website to double check all of these these application details. You can find us if you have any questions via email at yca-admissions@pku.edu.cn. Our website is Chinese website is yenching.pku.edu.cn. English website, Yenching Academy, etc. Find us on social media. Thank you for your interest in considering applying to Yenching Academy, and I appreciate your attention while I gave you this fairly long, hopefully comprehensive presentation. Now we're going to move into having our students chat with you about their experiences, and we'll have time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Caitlin from the 8th cohort, the 2022 cohort. I was previously entered in the Law and Society track. Now I have switched to the History and Archaeology track in my second year. So just a little bit about me. I am from the United States, from New York City, and I did my BA in East Asian Studies with a focus on China at the University of Virginia for my undergraduate degree. And currently I'm on the History and Archaeology track here at YCA, studying the history of Macau for my thesis. So in terms of my previous experience, before coming to YCA, I've worked and interned at Asia Society, the American Red Cross, and Thinktown Education. And currently at YCA, I fill a couple of roles. In my first year at YCA, I began working at the International Students Division Office of Peking University as an assistant and translator, as well as at the Office of Global Communications as a journalist and translator. And I'm currently in my second year fulfilling the role of a teaching assistant for the history of the field and the cultural heritage studies courses. So that's kind of a little bit about my current involvement at YCA. So a little bit about my academic experience at YCA. Even though I'm in the history and archaeology track, I really value the interdisciplinary aspect of YCA, as Professor Haas mentioned. So in addition to taking a lot of history courses, I also took courses in economics, sociology, philosophy, and business. And for me, this was really important because I really wanted to broaden my perspective on ways of looking at China. So I definitely encourage any applicants, if you're interested, to take advantage of this opportunity, as other various master's programs wouldn't give you this opportunity to try out new disciplines and explore new fields that YCA does. I also really value the fact that YCA gives us scholars so many resources within YCA, and also tapping into the Peking University resources, such as Professor Haas mentioned, with our access to PKU professors, the PKU facilities, going to events that are hosted by PKU, such as lecture series or joining any clubs at the activities fair. These are all things that you can do to engage more with the Peking University community, as well as the various forums that YCA hosts specifically for us, and field trips, etc. For research and field trips at YCA, I really enjoyed all of the opportunities we had. As Professor Haas mentioned, the CIT field study research in the spring was a really valuable experience for me. I also got to try out a new field for me, which was joining the environment group, where my teammates and I, we went to Xiamen in Fujian province to research about urban flooding solutions. And that was a really wonderful experience for me to get to not only plan our own research trip, but also get to meet with some officials and learn more about on-the-ground field research. Also, some various classes offer field trips around the Beijing area or even to outside of Beijing. For instance, last semester, I was really lucky to join a trip with Professor Lu Yang to Chufu in Shandong province, which is the hometown of Confucius, and that was the central topic of this trip. And I really enjoyed kind of going on these more smaller, intimate field trips with your professors to get to know about the content that you studied in the classroom in a real life field trip experience. Then obviously we have the kind of flagship field study to Chengdu and Chongqing at the moment, which for us happened in the spring, but is currently being run in the fall. And that was a really wonderful way, for at least for us, to end our year at YCA and go to Chengdu with all of our classmates and all of our professors and really kind of get to explore a totally different cultural scene than Beijing. And there are more upcoming field trip opportunities that you can take advantage of as a second year, either as a TA or field trips and research trips offered through Peking University. And some of my experiences at YCA that you may want to ask me about is that I switched tracks at YCA from the Law and Society track to the History and Archaeology track. So I think you could maybe see that the tracks are really important when you apply, but you could ask me about maybe why I switched and that process. I also, as I mentioned, work at 2 Peking University offices, which I have really enjoyed the experience of, not only working in an all-Chinese environment, but also connecting more with the community at Peking University, which is really important to me. I also was really fortunate to receive the second-year Mandarin Language Enrichment Scholarship. So I am currently enrolled in intensive Chinese classes at an external program from Peking University at our neighbor Tsinghua. And so these are just some various things that I'm pursuing currently in my second year and unique aspects, I guess, about my time at YCA that you could ask me about. And then some things that I really love about our community at YCA is the food at PKU, as we mentioned, the cats on campus, and all the kind of fun activities that we do together as a cohort. For instance, we go ice skating on the Weiming Lake that was mentioned. We go to the Beida sports festivals, field trips together, traveling together with your friends, going around Beijing together. All of these things, I think, really make the outside of class experience at YCA really special. So just to kind of wrap up my short presentation, my motivations for applying to YCA were to continue my studies from undergrad in China, but now at a top tier academic program in China. I really wanted to live in China while studying China, as I had previously missed this opportunity. And for me, that was really important to be able to experience the culture and study China in person, and hopefully to prepare and live and work in China in the future, as well as meet a network of fantastic classmates who all are pursuing different research areas here. So my small pieces of advice for any applicants would be to think about why China studies is really important to you at YCA, especially if you, as Professor Haas mentioned, if you don't have background in China. I think you really need to explain why China is interesting to you and why you want to continue studying or begin studying China based on your previous experience. And even if you do have background in China studies, why do you need more? Why do you need to be here now? I think is really important. And also, I think it's important to consider that YCA is providing you a lot of fantastic opportunities. So what are you going to contribute to the community at YCA? YCA, in my opinion, really wants to invest in people who are committed to thoughtful and long-lasting engagement with China. You, I think, in your application materials and in your interview, really need to think about why do I want to come to YCA, whether that be to learn about China and then go back to my home country and do cross-cultural exchange or international relations promotion, or whether I want to stay in China, or whether I want to integrate it into my future business career. Anything along those lines, I think, is just important to think about because, as Professor Haas mentioned, it's a big financial commitment for YCA to invest in you as a scholar for 2 years. So I think you should think about why, not only why YCA should accept you, but why you're valuable to the program. So that's just a little bit about my experience here. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have in the Q&A session later.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We already have one question that's been passed to me that we will about a degree from Peking University and future career options. We will discuss that coming up after our student presentations are over, so please be patient. A couple of things that I'd like to follow up on what Caitlin said. The fall field study always happens in the fall, except it didn't during the COVID pandemic and due to the resulting travel restrictions into China. So we did have to move our field study to the spring, so as many of our students could be here at the time. But we're going to be going in the second week of November this year, which frankly is much better because Chongqing and Chengdu in June is incredibly hot and humid. I also really appreciated you saying, committed. We're looking for students who are committed to a thoughtful and long-lasting engagement with China. That's very well said. As Caitlin is personally experienced, you can switch your research area at YCA, but we do have a process involved for that. If you apply to switch your research area at the end of your first year, we will need to evaluate that and some of the things you would need to think about if that's something you're considering doing. We will look at both your previous academic experience and training in the field to which you're switching, including courses and research you've done here at Yenching Academy. So you can take courses in another field to explore your options to potentially switch if you want to. You will also need to have a thesis advisor in the field into which you're switching approve your switch and be willing to guide you, as well as a letter of recommendation from another faculty member in the field to which you're switching, another PKU faculty member. Essentially, we want to ensure that you are training yourself and trying to integrate yourself into that field's academic community. So just your thesis advisor agreeing isn't enough. We want another faculty member to help you with that. So that is an option, but if that's something you want to consider, you should think about it early when you're selecting your courses here at YCA. Thank you very much, Caitlin. Let's go next. We'll see who's next once we switch to the slide.
There we go.
All right, Jasper.
Yeah, that's me. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm a little intimidated by Caitlin's presentation because it was so comprehensive and indeed well said. I mean, I think that the things she mentioned, I fully endorse, and I can only confirm that what she says about the program and the things she mentions are definitely true and are part of my experience. I will try to give a slightly alternative experience from someone who is born in Belgium, so who is not a resident or a national of a great superpower, economically or politically. So it means that wherever you are in the world, even if you're not an American or a Chinese citizen, you can definitely apply and you have a good chance of getting into the Yenching program. It is also there for you. I have 2 undergraduate degrees. I don't know if that is a good selling point, but it is. In any case, part of my trajectory, I started off in Ghent in Belgium with a law BA. I went to Paris after that to obtain an MA in law and European law, and then decided to return to Belgium and pursue a degree in China studies. I don't regret that one bit because it has brought me here, and it allowed me to gain some proficiency in Chinese and to eventually pursue an MA in Peking at Peking University. What I came for initially when applying for the Yenching program was an opportunity to live in China. Obviously, it was a full COVID pandemic, so the opportunities were scarce, and it was very uncertain whether we could come to China. And I'm eternally grateful, I think, to the Yenching program to give the support they have given to all the scholars that were eventually admitted to come to China. It was an intensely complex process of getting everyone here at the time, but they pulled that off magnificently. It was a very special experience, but definitely worthwhile at the time. I wanted to improve my Chinese, of course, and I can tell you all that at Peking University there are some of the best language programs probably in the world when it comes to learning Chinese. I benefited from the language program that is part of Yenching Academy, but in my second year, as Caitlin is doing as well. I'm following a language program at Peking University, and it is enriching, and it's very engaging, and it will definitely get me to a higher level of Chinese proficiency. I also wanted, obviously, to study at one of China's most prestigious academic institutions. I think Professor Haas has already mentioned what the status is of Peking University in China, but also in the world. I don't think, like many Western students, scholars, Western academia in general, is very much aware of the rich history, resources, and status of Peking University, but it is truly one of the best academic universities I've studied at, and I think arguably one of the best in the world. It was also for me, last but not least, obviously a way of getting out of your comfort zone. It is very nice, obviously, to study in the West at these fancy Oxfords or Harvards or Cambridges. But it is also good, I think, to sometimes, of course, like expand your horizon and go abroad and go to a place that is very different from what you're used to, but nonetheless worth I think a visit and maybe some time. What it turned out to be like, as I said, it turned out to be what I came for and much more. It has improved my language ability, as I mentioned, but it turned out to be also like a very stimulating academic environment, and that's not only because of the status of Peking University, but definitely also because of my fellow students. I think that's one of the most surprising aspects to me. Obviously, you know that you're getting into a very culturally rich and diverse program, but I was definitely impressed by just the academic pedigrees and just the experiences, the perspective of all my classmates. I'm a CIT TA this year, and so I am to some extent overseeing and managing the class discussions about specific topics in China's modern development, you could say, and it is just very enriching and pleasant to listen to all my classmates who have their own backgrounds, their own experiences, and sharing them with one another. It is truly one of the I think most important aspects of YCA to me. There are definitely extremely generous research opportunities as well. You can indeed apply for the Dean's Research Grant, travel all over China, conduct research, develop your own research plans, and carry them out. I have done a CIT research. We went to Shanghai last year to study Chinese nationalism. I have also had the opportunity to go to Nanning in this side of China, which is a city that is often overlooked. It's not the most sexy city when it comes to like a outlook and cultural prestige, but it was a very interesting experience to study Chinese urbanization. And I think each and every one of us has like a similar experience in which you like discover a part of China through these kind of research opportunities. And then it also turned out to be a way more comfortable than expected experience. I thought I was getting out of my comfort zone, but you get into a new comfort zone anyway, in the sense that, as Caitlin mentioned already, the food at Peking University is truly spectacular. I can. There's no other way to describe it. Also in China, if you travel and you talk with other people, you're sitting on a train in Gansu, for example, and you tell the person next to you you're studying at Peking University, the first thing they will say, probably or likely, is that, "Oh, the food. You must be enjoying yourself at Peking University." So China, it is known that Peking University has a special culinary scene. And then new encounters, I already mentioned my classmates. Then some suggestions to prospective students. These are all like very humble suggestions in the sense of like, you have to figure out your own way, obviously, and you have to consult people in your direct environment, direct circle, to write this statement, this research statement, to find a nice way of presenting yourself, and to think for yourself also of what is your career perspective, or what do you want to get from YCA. Why the YCA program? I think the YCA program is as I said, it gives you a lot of opportunities. It is to some extent like it is the ideal it is the ideal way of figuring out as well what you want to do specifically in the next stage of your life, but it's not for everyone. I think you have to be aware of the fact that the YCA program is very much focused on studying China. It is, I think there are very similar programs that seem to be similar, that also offer a China experience, that also have rich resources and support. But there is an important focus here on trying to engage with the country, the culture, the history, and it's very much focused on learning. So if you are willing to do that, and it's not just, and I say it's not just something that you want to put on your CV, but you really want to engage with it, you really want to engage with China as a place and an intellectual and academic phenomenon, then definitely YCA is something for you. But you have to think about that thoroughly. Like, is YCA something specifically apt for me and my ambitions? I think I have said everything I wanted to say. And the question is then, yeah, well, what are you waiting for? If you want to apply, let's go. Try it.
Thank you so much, Jasper. I think this is a great moment, the way you just wrapped up there, to answer one of the questions that we've received in the chat. And this question is for the panel. Quote, in your experience, how competitive is an overseas degree for students who plan to apply to PhD programs or look for work in the private sector after graduation? Is it the case that a degree from Peking University makes one more competitive or less for American academic institutions and employers? Thank you for your question. I think this is a nice transition to this. And the question came in very early, so we don't want to make you wait for too terribly long. The way I would answer this question is through a couple of different angles. One is that Peking University is consistently ranked in the top 15, top 10 universities globally. So it is a top, I don't know why I'm looking at the microphone, I'm sorry. It is a top global institution of academic excellence. And so that will help you. Having a graduate degree will also help you no matter what field you're going into. You know, having a master's degree in China studies is going to help you perhaps more in certain fields than it would in others. But overall, having a degree overseas is definitely a net positive. Having a degree from a top global university like PKU is absolutely a selling point. But to follow up on what Jasper just said, you know, and what Caitlin said, you know, we are a China studies program. We want people who are interested in China, better understanding China, learning how to ask the right questions, to carry out research, to position themselves with a rare kind of academic and personal lived experience in China. We, you know, you don't have to become, we're not only looking for people who are going to become, you know, Chinese history professors, but we want people who plan and are committed to having something to say about China for the rest of their careers, and through us and through their own talent, knowing what to say. We want to create informed young experts on different aspects of China. And so if that is you, and you have a degree from Peking University, and you are a Yenching scholar, and you're applying to an American academic institution for a PhD, it is going to be an incredibly good selling point for you. If you're going into private industry, if you're going into consulting or diplomacy, then yes, it also will be very, very helpful for you. But it'll be helpful for you directly, most helpful for you, if you are keeping China related to your future career. If you're going to McKinsey, but you want to be someone who works in onboarding companies into China, or Chinese companies going global, that's a really, really good tight connection between what you can get at YCA and your Peking University degree. If you're going into China studies, academia, absolutely. If you are, if you aren't trying to keep China directly in your career, it still will be very helpful, PKU degree, master's degree, etc. But it's perhaps not as helpful unless you're trying to keep China as part of your professional life. Do you all have any thoughts on that you'd like to follow up or respond to that question?
Well, the question is maybe also inhibit any opportunities you have or you want to have in the future. I truly, sincerely doubt that. Even though I know that there are some tensions, and it's not always easy to estimate like what is the general like vibe or atmosphere in the United States when it comes to China. But I would think that if the institution you are applying to does not or does look negatively at a degree in China studies at one of China's best universities, then it's maybe not worthwhile applying for the institution. I mean, I would take that attitude, but obviously you can never know. Sometimes you don't know what makes a difference and what not. But I think if I can to some extent like gauge like the vibe in the United States, I think it's definitely one of openness towards academic exchange and cultural exchange. Politically and economically, it's a little more tense, but I think if it's academically and culturally, there is definitely a lot of willingness on both sides, I think, to engage with one another still. So,
also take. Yeah. Any other comments?
I think maybe something to add is that if your employer probably knows about Peking University, but they might not know about the Yenching Academy. But I think at least I've never had the experience of applying to a job post YCA, but I have had the experience of introducing YCA to friends and family and acquaintances back home. And not all of them might know about YCA when I first talk about it, but then I think that from a quick search and looking at the website, it becomes very apparent to that person that YCA is really a top program and a top academic institution, and they become very interested and impressed quickly. So I think if your employer maybe knows about Peking University, but they don't know about YCA, it's a really good learning opportunity for them for you to introduce the program to them and show them kind of what kind of stuff may be happening here and how exciting and how what a great opportunity that was for you. So I think it could be a good like learning opportunity or experience to kind of publicize what a great time you had at the program if you choose to apply.
Okay, thanks. How about Jean-Paul? Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's not to sound cliche, but it's awesome that you guys just talked about this question, because I think I'm in fear of again repeating all things that I agree with that Jasper and Caitlin already said. I might maybe skim over some parts of my own section and talk mostly about the fact that I am interested in pursuing a PhD after this, and so that's sort of the direction that I had in mind when I was applying to the program, and that's also sort of one of the main reasons that I'm here as well. So really quickly though, I guess go past, present, future type of vibe. I just want to talk about like my China story, I guess you could say. I got a political science bachelor's at Stanford, and one of the classes that really changed my life was Chinese politics with Jean Oi. I think she's probably one of the smartest professors I've ever had in my life, and I think, basically I just took every class that I could with her, and then I ended up doing my honors thesis with her as well. And I think that is pretty much what started me on this track of really being interested in doing research. And just because I had done so much research already on China, that was sort of the direction that I wanted to continue going in. And I think that's one of the main things that I found really intriguing about the Yenching Academy specifically, was this opportunity to actually do research in China. I'm sure for many of you who do research now regarding China, maybe you have a research assistant job, or you are in your bachelor's degree, or maybe you're already working and you're doing some kind of work related to China. It's a very different thing to be doing a field study in China than to be sitting in the US or wherever else in the world you are and looking at whatever World Bank data. And I think that was what really, really intrigued me about the opportunity of coming to China, is that you could actually do real research at a program like this. And then at the same time, I think like, as a result of doing things like Princeton and Beijing and learning Mandarin, I ended up getting research assistant jobs where, I was combing through think tank articles, journalism, things like that. And I think it staggered me the extent to which media in the West seems to not really know what's going on in China, and oftentimes will make a big deal out of very little. I distinctly remember there was a time where I must have read like 3 different think tank reports about the number of teacups that people had at the party congress, and that this was some really incisive political analysis. And I remember thinking, wow, like that is just not really what I am looking forward to reading when I open up a report by an American think tank, by an American specialist. And I think that really belied the fact that a lot of experts in the U.S. Have never been to China, have never studied China in a very serious way. And so I wanted to not be like that. I think, to be totally frank with you guys, like I think there was an intense concern in my mind that like if I did pursue a PhD, whatever I pursued it in, whether it's political theory, comparative politics, or even China studies, or some sort of area studies related thing, I didn't want to be a China expert or someone who is an expert on something else and comments about China and has never even been there, never actually studied it. And so I think that was one of the main motivations for me to want to come. So I think together, this I was inspired by some of my professors, but at the same time, I was also worried about, what kind of academic would I be if I didn't study China. And I think to that end, I have had a lot of really great opportunities here at YCA. Again, I don't want to repeat some of the things that Jasper and Caitlin said. So I'll focus maybe on like this topic of research and how you can get research that will help you maybe pursue a PhD. Like we had that question asker just now. I think, I was just getting a meal at one of our lovely canteens with Jasper the other day. And we were talking about how YCA is really incredible in that no matter what you want to do here, you have the opportunity to do it. And I think that is really unique, just insofar as like, if what you're interested in is research, there are opportunities to do research, and you can really double down on that. You can really put your eggs in that basket, so to speak, and spend your time and your energy pursuing that. For instance, my CIT project, which they've both talked about, we had the opportunity to go to Zhejiang and study basically how local government officials comply with central policy on agricultural land. And now me and my teammates are pursuing turning that into publishable research. And so I think, like, if you're asking about how to get into a PhD program, the surefire way, right, is to have published articles, is to have articles published in reputable academic journals. And YCA definitely gives you the opportunity to do that kind of thing. Your thesis will almost certainly be a publishable level of work. You have the opportunity to make publishable work in CIT. You have the opportunity to do it with special grants that Professor Haas mentioned, like the Dean's Research Grant. These are all really important ways that you can both pursue your own research interests, right? Like, I'm not just doing it to get into a PhD, I'm doing it because I'm interested in it. But at the same time, if there's this background sort of like life career goal that you have of getting into a PhD program, absolutely there are opportunities here to do that as well. And then some various other assorted things that I wouldn't want to glaze over too much. I mean, I think being on the board of the Yenching Global Symposium was a really great experience as well, and having the opportunity to organize an academic conference, things like that. These are all important experiences, I think, in my own YCA journey. And then at the top there, I have my tentative thesis topic. I'm really interested these days in street level bureaucracy, and so I'm really excited about the opportunity now to maybe go to sort of the street level in China and do some interviews, which again is an opportunity that you wouldn't have if you were living in the US or you were doing some sort of master's degree program elsewhere in the world. And then as far as advice for prospective YCAers, I really like the way Jasper put it. And he said, this really is humble advice. I don't have the answers. I'm certainly not an admissions officer. I can't tell you what it takes to get in. But I can tell you that I personally feel very, very lucky and very, very grateful that I did get in. And I think my best advice for you guys is there at the bottom, is to be honest with yourself I think it's important, like I was saying before, there's really so many opportunities here, and there's so much that YCA can provide for you. So there's no reason to think that you have to sort of like tell the admissions committee that all of it applies to you. Just be honest with what exactly it is that you think you're going to get out of this experience, and how you're going to give back to the community as well at the same time. And I think you will do great if you just take some time and be a little bit introspective about that. What is it that you really want to do with your life? I think there were all these things going on in my own head when I was applying, and not least among them is the idea that I wanted to be a PhD student that had some experience with China, and that wasn't sort of just sort of pulling things out of thin air when I opine about China, because it is so important now. And then I think maybe one thing that nobody's touched on yet is what my advice is for you as a YCAer. And so I think, if you do end up getting accepted, I hope that you'll recognize that it's a really, really small program. It's maybe 120 people. And I think we're really, really lucky in a way that I've never experienced in any other setting in my life. I think you sit down for lunch with any single one of them, and you have an incredible, incredible time. Like you'll talk for hours, and it'll be impossible to get to your class on time. But as a result of the fact that it is such a small program, 120 people, you really decide the culture with your own actions, your own behavior. And so I think, in some ways, I urge you guys to be the YCA community that you want to be. It's not set in stone. I think every cohort has a very distinct character, but I think come in with the energy that you want to share with other people. And then and then I really agree with Jasper that it's an incredible way to get out of your comfort zone. I think it's so easy, especially if you come from the West, to just do what your roommate is doing at college, what everyone else is doing. You finish your undergrad degree, you go find a high-paying job in an urban city, then you spend 10 years working there, and then you go move to the suburbs. I mean, it feels like a lot of people do that, right? So I think it's really, really incredible opportunity that we have here to do something really interesting and exciting and new. And then finally, I think the people are the best by far. The
Better
best
than
part.
the food?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, if you get lunch, then you can have the people and the food at the same time. So just get a lot of lunches with people. So yeah.
All right, thank you, John Paul. Okay, so we have some questions lined up, and I want to go not exactly in the order in which they were submitted, but I'll share some thoughts on each of the questions and then invite our students to join as well. One person asked, quote, most of the scholars are mainly from the USA, Europe, and Asia. Is there a real possibility of being admitted from a small Latin American country, end quote? Yes, absolutely. There is a possibility. We have partner institutions throughout Latin America. Before the pandemic, I was able to visit about 4 universities in Argentina, and I do have plans to go promote the program in Mexico and Brazil. We have had students from Ecuador, from Bolivia, Colombia. Absolutely, for some of those are quite large countries, but yeah, there is certainly a possibility to be admitted into the program from a Latin American country. We highly value our national, regional, and cultural diversity in the program, but we also value how you present yourself and what you want to do here. So yes, there's a very, very good chance you can get in. It certainly won't hinder you, but we don't just admit for regional diversity. We want that sweet spot of fascinating applicant with really cool ideas and plans, and where they may be from. So yeah, absolutely encourage you to apply. And it the application package that you present very much can include and emphasize where you're from, what you want to do, and how you want to do it here at YCA. That's up to you. About after you introspect, as John Paul says, then you can communicate why coming from where you come from to do what you want to do makes a potential highly valuable Yenching scholar. So yeah, please consider your submitting an application, and don't be discouraged based on where you're from. Any other comments you'd like to follow up? Anyone have anything to share?
Yeah, well, I guess on the note of diversity, I think obviously Professor Haas already did say that trying to get more people from the global south, and that is obviously an admirable goal, and we want that. But I would say that it really feels so much more diverse than maybe the numbers suggest. I really think it's almost impossible to go a day in YCA without making friends with people from all over the world. And so, yeah, I mean, I was looking at the numbers and I was like, really, there are 33 people from the US? Because it doesn't really feel like that. I definitely don't think I spend all my time with people from the US, and that's where I'm from, obviously. So yeah.
That's actually been heartening that we've, considering the previous question about will a PKU or a YCA degree potentially hinder you finding jobs or academic opportunities in the US. That's something that we in admissions and in the YCA leadership I've been worried about. But we've been getting higher numbers of applications from US applicants and continually excellent and competitive applicants. So that's a nice sort of counter trend to the broader media narrative we're hearing, and also the broader, fact that it's a really, really tense relationship between the US and China politically right now. Okay, great, thanks. So next we have a question that I think I'll just throw this one to our students. Where are we? Do YCA students get involved and engage with other PKU academic and social activities and even other PKU students?
Yes.
Okay, next.
Yes, they definitely do, and again, it very much depends on your own ambitions, your own character, your own degree of outgoingness, I guess. But it's definitely possible. I mean, there is the club fair. I think it was last week, and it's very nice to see. Then, like one of the main squares on campus is then full with all these very interesting stands and all these very obscure interests are displayed like to the large public, and it's just very interesting and nice to see how many people are just like engaged in all sorts of strange activities. So, but everyone finds their own thing, and it's a PKU-wide thing. So you can definitely go to these clubs that are mainly Chinese clubs, right? And be a part of that. I'm personally part of a soccer team that is not the YCA soccer team, but also the soccer team of like Huanshi. So that's like the environmental and social sciences soccer team, you could call it. I train with them, I play with them, and it's a very nice way of interacting with Chinese students. Yeah, I think these kind of activities definitely like foster ties cross-culturally. I think it's indeed an important part of your YCA experience to get out there too, to not stay within the bubble, but try to reach out to students specifically from mainland China and all over the world, but specifically maybe from China, and try to see what binds you or what connects you, right? And try to do things together for sure. And so that's definitely possible. It's more than possible. It's like it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And this is not a shortcoming of YCA at all, but it would be possible if you were really adamant about it to avoid making connections with PKU students. But I obviously, Jasper would, and I also would recommend against it. I think no matter what you do, if you just put a little bit of effort in, go to the gym, you'll meet people. You want to play an instrument, you walk into the music practice rooms, you'll meet people, and people will pop their heads in and say, "Wow, that's incredible! Like, what are you playing?" And so I think even if you're not joining an official club or something like that, it is absolutely possible to do those things. And then was academics a part of the question too? Obviously, taking courses at PKU is great, and lots of people do that and really enjoy those. And challenge themselves with writing their first academic essay in a foreign language too, for people who are native speakers of English.
So yeah, you absolutely can do it. We encourage you to. We don't force you to do it. I guess administratively, we force you to engage with PKU professors from the classes they teach and getting your faculty mentor and your thesis advisor. But and so especially your social life and your extracurricular life is what you make of it. It's very easy to do. We will help you if we need to, but to meet PKU students and join social activities here, you don't need our help. You can do it on your own. Yeah. But great, thank you very much for the question. Okay, we have a question that I want to mention. A couple of questions we're asking about age limits for applications. I'd like to address these now before we move to some questions about Chinese studies or China studies experience in the applications, and then a specific question about the politics and international relations concentration. So a couple of students asked about age limits. We do not have a formal age limit, but we have not admitted anyone over the age of 29 in the past. The reason why we don't have a formal age limit is we don't want to completely limit applications. But the reason why we have that age, that practice of not having admitted anyone over 29 is a couple of reasons. All of our Chinese students who are Yenching scholars come directly out of their undergraduate experience. So we're trying to keep broadly in the 20s, so there's an easier chance for bonds among our students. The second point is related to what you might call competitive fairness in the application process. If someone is 35 and has been working, if you're 35 or older, you already have 10 plus years of professional experience. And it's hard to evaluate someone who's been a practicing lawyer or, been working for the Foreign Affairs Office in their home country's government with a student who's graduating from college. And so we try to use age roughly as a way to have a little bit more of a level playing field when we're looking at applications from people. But we do have a new scholarship opportunity at YCA. It's called the Zhuoyue Scholarship. You can find the information on our application. The Zhuoyue Scholarship is specifically for older applicants to study for 1 year at Yenching Academy. And these applicants need to have been in high positions at, say, government or industry or companies. That scholarship application at YCA, you apply to YCA and you can indicate that you're interested in applying for this opportunity. Does not, it will tilt older. The applicants who receive that will trend a little bit older. So if you're concerned about being, one person mentioned 32 and applying, I say you still try, but I also say you look into the Zhuoyue Scholarship opportunity at Yenching Academy. That is a PKU and maybe even national level scholarship, and I believe the age cutoff of the Zhuoyue Scholarship is 45, my age, which is slightly, I am no longer eligible to apply for the Zhuoyue Scholarship, but you probably are. So please look at that. Okay, so with that out of the way, one person also asked if they can, on a different topic on the application, one person asked if they can include exchange study academic transcripts, so study abroad, exchange programs, academic transcripts. Yes, you may include that. You can include that in additional documents, or you can, but we only require academic transcripts for degree programs. Perhaps if you're doing a formal exchange through your university and the course credits are applying back to your home university for your degree, then yes, you do want to see that if it's not listed on your formal academic transcript at your home university. Your transcripts from non-degree exchanges, you're welcome to submit those as well. I think maybe I've mentioned this a little bit, but let's ask our scholars here about what they think. The question is, how important is a formal academic background in Chinese or China-related studies for admissions? Would informal internship and student or organization experience be evaluated similarly? Do you want to share that, or do you want me to, you have anything to share? Would you like me to approach that from the sort of admissions side?
I could say something. I think that, for instance, I'd had a degree in East Asian studies with a China focus within that. And even that, I feel like is not, personally, I felt like is not enough justification. Like, I think I need to say, or in my application materials, I took effort to say, the reason I picked this major is because of X, Y, and Z for my interest in China. And then the reason I want to continue doing a major in China studies is X, Y, and Z. So I think just the fact of even having a major or like work experience related to China is not really enough. I think you still do need to say why you're interested in it, why you want to continue with it. And then even more so if it's not a formal activity, if it's just, oh, I joined a student organization that's related to China or something like that in college, then I think you even further need to justify that why you want to take something that was a activity or an interest for you and bring it up to the formal degree level. So I think no matter what, you do need to kind of not justify, but kind of explain your choices about why you want to continue or why you want to start.
Yeah, maybe on that topic, it's sort of like it's really incredible to see some of our own, our own cohort members who maybe have no experience with China, but they are really focused on something else. Like everybody will know who I'm talking about if I say that we have one classmate who's really passionate about semiconductors, and so for them, the China studies aspect is something that came out in the application, I'm sure, and is a new passion, a new interest. And so I think, like Caitlin is saying, obviously it can help if it has already sort of inspired you to find something you're passionate about related to China, but it doesn't seem like it's necessary either. Like obviously you can still very convincingly and honestly communicate why you're interested in China, even if you've never taken a course regarding China before in your life. So.
Great point. Anything you'd like to add, or I can give my admissions perspective here. So having formal academic training related to China, having travel or study abroad or work experience in or related to China can be a competitive advantage. I mean, we're a China studies program. If you have that, then you should emphasize that in your applications. But we're not just looking for people who have degrees in East Asian studies or in history with a focus on China. Because we want different levels. We want super smart, really interesting, nice people, but we want different levels of formal academic engagement and formal personal experience related to China, all in the classroom together, all in the dormitory together. Because if everyone is sitting in a class at YCA and they all have degrees in East Asian languages and civilizations, or they all have China-related degrees, they're going to sort of ask the same questions. They're going to sort of already have similar backgrounds, and it could get stale. Having someone who is, everyone's smart and engaged and interested in being here, but some people have taken formal courses, some people have a lot of reading and research experience, some people have a lot of experience in other industries or in other fields. That's when you get really engaging, exciting conversations, because people bring different bodies of knowledge to the topic and ask different questions, and it makes for a really stimulating environment. We also look for people who excel in other parts of, other fields or other professional endeavors, and who at this point in their career realize, to go where I need to go, to complete what I'm trying to become an expert in, I need to know what's happening in China. And so, we have the one student who's really passionate about semiconductors. He was very serious about, he has experience outside of China in that field, and he wants to know about the field that he's already building expertise in China. That's a very, very valid and can be a very attractive application sort of proposal and story that you're telling. Recently, there've been a lot of people who are interested in, environmental protection, green finance. But to get where they want to go, they need to know how that's being regulated and built and stimulated in China. So they're not just knowing everything else in this field outside of China. AI regulation has been a really big one. AI and entrepreneurship development, and then the legal regulation of that. They know what's going on in Europe and America. They need to know what's going on in China. That is also can be a very persuasive application profile. So if you have the formal China training or the formal China experience, play it up. If you don't, tell us what other things you have that are really, really strong and interesting about you, and how coming here can help you build out your profile as a young professional, as a young expert. Great, thank you for that question. me see if we're running out of time, but I want to see if there's anything else. Oh, someone was asking, could you delve more into the resources politics and international relations scholars can access through PKU, specifically experience for students interested in diplomacy? Are scholars following this research track in close contact with the School of International Studies at Peking University? Very briefly, yes, we are very, very closely in contact with the School of International Studies at PKU. School of International Studies is what does politics, diplomacy, international relations, sometimes international political economy, even international law is they have faculty in the School of International Studies there. One of our associate deans, my friend and close colleague, Fan Shermin, associate dean at Yenching Academy, professor at the School of International Studies at PKU. Our assistant dean, Chen Changwei, also professor at the School of International Studies. So there is a deep connections between School of International Studies at PKU and YCA. And we have a lot of politics and IR students. We have a lot of offerings for, ambassadors coming to visit here. Students sometimes organizing that. We have special chaired professors in chaired visiting professors in diplomacy and international leadership, et cetera. So there's a lot going on. Would anyone like to talk about their experience and sort of the IR, diplomacy, or politics and international relations concentration here?
I am the politics and IR student on the panel, but I apologize that I'm less interested in diplomacy, so I'm not sure I can fully answer maybe what you're hoping for, what you're looking for. But at the same time, I would say I think one of the main things about the courses here at YCA, especially the politics and IR ones, I think some of the main value that I personally get out of them is the fact that they take on this perspective. There's a really popular politics and IR course that's taught by a former government official, and I think that that's some of the main value that I get out of the politics and IR courses here is the sort of the anecdotes, the stories, and so I think if that's what you're interested in, that there's a lot here for you. There's the courses, there's the talks by visiting by visiting diplomats. Obviously, it's the top university in all of China. So when people visit, they stop by PKU. And then I guess the last sort of bit of anecdotal evidence is that we have plenty of classmates who are all very, very interested in becoming diplomats. And so, I assume it's working really well for them. So I can't imagine why it wouldn't for you as well.
All right, thanks. I would wrap up the politics and IR by saying there's a lot for you here. It's always our highest applied for and highest accepted research concentration here at YCA. And another good thing is that the School of International Relations is one of the schools at the non-YCA schools and institutes at PKU that tends to have the highest number of English taught courses that are available for you we really encourage you to take classes outside of YCA in the broader PKU community. But, like the Guanghua School of Management, the School of International Studies, the School of Law, but especially International Studies seems to have, on average, more courses taught in English that are available if your Chinese language isn't up to a level where you think you can, effectively learn in the classroom and effectively write papers in Chinese. We're out of questions now. Thank you very much to our panelists for joining us. It's been a real pleasure seeing you, taking time out of your busy schedules, even as we're about to move into the October national holiday here in Beijing. Thank all of you online for your insightful questions, for your interest in Yenching Academy. If you have any questions, reach out to us at the admissions office and the website. And we hope to see your applications and hopefully see you here with us in Beijing about 11 months from now. Thank you very much. Going to go ahead and close today's first open information session. Thanks.